So good morning, everybody. 大家早上好 und guten Morgen. My name is Yimeng Wu, or 中文 Yimeng, and I am a visual designer and artist. And yesterday we were talking, or all those 2 days were concerned about media and images between China and Germany. And there's also another one aspect which plays also a role, that's the way the media and so many informations are packed or transported, so where design plays a role. And this we all got to know yesterday from the Baidu discussion that it's important sometimes not to just place one product into the other country, but also the way to translate it visually. And this visual translation between the cultures, this is something that I live from. And this is my studio in Berlin. So I was born in China and came to Germany with 9 years. So you hear that I have a German accent, although I look Chinese in my English. But this is the place where I work on creative projects between China and Germany. And I'm happy also about this meeting here, because it's really also what I'm dealing with every day, also with the problems of cultural clashes. And I try to solve it with visual aesthetics. And what I'm producing in my studio is a lot the very classical media. One of those mediums that I prefer is really the book, which can transport a lot of layers also. And I'm happy also be here because this is where we have already worked together a lot with the Robert Bosch Foundation. And maybe some of you, we have worked together, for example, Oliver Radke here, and longtime friends, and Thomas, and also Haifeng, and also Felix. They were in the redactional team. So maybe you know this book. This is the anniversary book about the 9 years media ambassadors Thomas was talking about. So this is a very respectful book to celebrate the 9 years. And there are a lot of articles written by the participant of the program, and they have been also visualized through illustrations to give the stories also a more fantasy, narrative, or more poetic level. And these are some of the illustrations out of it. So the left is, for example, about the Chinese dream of football championship. And I'm very happy about that these illustrations just got an illustration award also recently in China. So. And another project that we will take part of it also directly today and during the city tour. So this is another program by the Robert Bosch Foundation called 中德城市创者 or Stadtmacher. Does anybody know it already? No. This is actually quite interesting because it's a network which gathers people working in urban fields between China and German cities. They are not just the urbanists or the officials from the city municipality who care about city relationships between China and Germany, but also a lot of creative people or people who work in bottom up. So this is really what we were yesterday talking about, that there can be some change also through these people. For example, there's also Pantau, Dr. Pantau, who's do you know the first Schrebergarten in Shanghai? Dr. Pantau, there's a Chinese man who created a Chinese kind of Schrebergarten in the suburbs of Shanghai. So these are people that meet together and create exchange and also create new projects concerning a better life in the cities, not just the official one. And we're happy. Last year we had the meeting in the same building here with the big team of both countries, and I was responsible for the artistic program and the design, and we also had workshops through the cities where we were exploring the city. So today we were also going to continue this part together in the afternoon by the city walk. So this is where we will go, to Berlin Mitte here. And besides a city, which city can be very identified with the urban culture of a place, there's also another cultural code which is important at least in design and also in media, which is the typography itself. And the scripture, Chinese and Latin, these are totally different systems. And this is, for example, a font that I have written by hand, which is named Bojing, Bo like Boling, and Jing like Beijing. And this is a font that has been this is really a font you can use on computer like Times New Roman. So this has been created in collaboration with Hanyi fonts in China. And the special feature of the font is that it has got Bauhaus features actually. So it's more with the geometrical style. And the writings, the tool is really traditional European. So it's not a Chinese calligraphy brush, but it's a European quiver. So it's a kind of font which was also a font between the cultures. And there are much more of them. So you can imagine how many there are. At least the Jiantizi is like 8, together with Latins, almost 8,000 characters. So it was quite a lot to write, but it was very nice and meditative way to dive into Chinese character world. Yeah, I did also Jianti and Fanti then, because I couldn't stop writing when it's like a sport or meditation, so you need it as your everyday habit then. So this was this font. And another more artistic project I started some years ago, 2011. It was dealing with everyday objects. And this is a project I wanted to show you a bit more in detail, because it's also displays the phenomenon of projection about the other side, about the Chinese and the Germans. So, you know, the term China in Chinese, 东西, is like things. And the funny thing is that it's like East and West. And what the project was about, it was about exchanging things from the West to the East and the other way. So I started with searching for mysterious German objects from everyday life. Everybody's laughing, or the German side is laughing. So these are things you know from everyday life. For example, on the right, this is for example, a hat for starting school in Germany. So German school kids have it. Or this white thing, you know it from the church. Yes, you eat it as symbol. Yeah, so I was collecting over like 20 objects, or no, 10 objects from every country. The one is really, I have learned new, it was Bierwärmers, an object for warming beer in South Germany. Yes. Yeah, it's still actual, because some people, older people, they have stomach problems, and the doctor says, yeah, you need to heat up the beer. And then you put hot water in it, and then you place it in the big beer krug. Very pragmatic. Yeah, it's true, you can buy it, or the South German people know it, or some of the old ones. Yes, some parts of the South. Yeah, but during the process, I learned a lot about both countries also, and of course I picked the strange ones because, and these are the Chinese ones. I guess a lot of you know that. No, 不知道. The green one you know, and the first one is, for example, a cricket cage, a cage for guoguolong, also. But in a modern version. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so there were all the strange objects, and I brought the strange objects from Germany to people, volunteers who wanted to spend time with the objects in their home. They bring them home, they adopt them for 2 weeks, and I gave them a creative guideline where they could write things about it and really be creative with them. And they were not allowed to Google, they were not allowed to ask other people, and they just had to use their fantasy and see what it's about. And it was really amazing, because almost nobody had guessed the right function. And so this is what happened really with the objects. For example, the German Schultüte for German school kids for the first day. It has been used from a Chinese woman as a hat, and her interpretation of the whole was, this is a kind of Christmas hat. So this is her writing. Also, I picked also their handwriting to show their personalities also. And this is her interpretation, that this is a hat for Christmas. And it's interesting because at the same time, it really reminds me of, it's a bit also tough because of the hats used for the Cultural Revolution. If you remember, in some pictures, you see the people who were treated badly through that as traitors. And yes, and then, but at the same time, she thought it would be something beautiful, really, like Christmas. So she had projected her own knowledge of her country, but with some knowledge of the other. So this was really... Yeah, they would not have. Yeah, but the woman who did it, she was like 50 years. So this was maybe, it's an interpretation from me also that it could do something with Cultural Revolution. Or this is an object from China, or 3 objects, and this has been interpreted by a German old lady in her 70s. And this was displaced in the book here. So this is where she was writing in her handwriting the story, and the content actually is she said it reminds her of her grandmother's receipt book. So, and it can be something for measuring things, you know, in the kitchen if you're cooking or baking. This was her explanation, which is very nice, but actually this is used for not acupuncture, but it's baguan, yeah, cupping. So it's not the same. Yeah, and the whole thing has been also, I was very astonished about the surprising stories and kept it together in this book here, in both versions. And this has been also displayed as exhibition at the left side in the Konfuzius-Institut in Leipzig and also in Berlin, but also in some other places. So where the objects play a new role, like like actors. And it's interesting because actually it's like showing that the things are themselves like empty. So this is what a Buddhist friend told me, like, yeah, the experiment you did, it's like proof of Buddhist theory that everything is empty and it's what your mind and your is projecting on it. And about creating images. It's really interesting. So I was very happy about the whole process and learned a lot. This is the book. So if you want, I have it with me later in the break. You can look at it if you're interested. It has been published in 2 languages. It's a bilingual book also. And last but not least, I wanted to show you a project that I finished recently, and it was a 4 years long project, the longest I was working on. And actually, do you know, somebody know the place, maybe from the professor of sinology, maybe some of you, of the Lyon, there's a Chinese archive in Lyon, 中法大学, you know the story. But when I was there in Lyon the first time in 2013, I was astonished that nobody knew the story, that there in the 1920s to 40, there are over 400 Chinese students staying in Lyon, in that archive, and I was going to the archive and research a lot for their personal stories, and have written and illustrated a kind of graphic novel for young and old about a French-Chinese family and their fate and their experiences through war and also that special tumultuous time of history. And this just has been published here in this big heavy book. So, and in case somebody goes to Frankfurt Book Fair, I will present it on this Saturday in the Hall 9 for on the stage of independent editors. So this has had this is in German, but it will be published in Chinese and also in French, hopefully. And this is, I will finish the whole with the image out of the book, which is a historical plan about how the people were coming from Lyon to Europe in the 30s and 20s. And it took them about really 35 days, the whole journey on ship, to come here, and it's the original document from that time, the route at least. And it's crazy to think about how fast today it is to get to the other side, to get to information on the other, and to fly. But the question is, are we really closer than at that time? And this is what we're working on today. And I'm also curious about the creative part, also to work with you together. And and let's see where the journey goes today. Thank you.